1 o'clock, the fourth and final hour, three-man front on this Thursday. Landrum, Pat, Conrad, and Molly. Text line is open. Daryl and Joseph on the text line. Let me address your text really quickly. 5 upset picks from Brett Norsworthy. If someone misspoke afterwards, we apologize, but Brett took Georgia Tech over Clemson. Clemson is the favored team. That would be an upset. So if someone misspoke, once again, no, but Georgia Tech, he picks to beat Clemson this Saturday. We appreciate all of your texts and continue to roll in 205-834-9450.
Well, we do this each and every Thursday on the show. Conrad gets in the corner. He gets out all his fantasy. This is what we call Conrad's Fantasy Corner.
Touchdown! Conrad's Fantasy Corner.
All right, well, we've made it to week 2 of the
How'd you do
NFL
week 1?
season.
How'd you do?
I lost my first matchup, unfortunately.
Molly, how'd you do?
I lost too.
What?
Thanks, Joe Burrow.
What are y'all doing?
Yeah, my team certainly underperformed in week 1, so going to need some guys to step up moving forward in week 2, but that's what we're here to try to help you do, as it's going to get going tonight, as we've already talked about. Commanders at Packers is going to be your first game of the week 2 slate. But let's first take a look back at week 1, and it was I would say all around, maybe, I don't know if I want to say disappointing, but you didn't have as many fireworks as you sometimes have to start off a fantasy season in terms of points scored. So only one player last week goes over 30 total fantasy points for the week, and it was, of course, Josh Allen, whose Buffalo Bills had that miraculous comeback win over the Ravens. He had 38.7 fantasy points last week, by far the highest total from week 1. All 4 of your top 4 scorers last week were quarterbacks. Josh Allen, Justin Fields, Daniel Jones, and Lamar Jackson were your top 4 scorers last week. Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers were the top scorers outside of the quarterback position. So you had Lamar, Derrick Henry, and Zay Flowers. So if you had Ravens players last week, you probably ended up looking pretty good. So let's get ahead to week 2. Quickly, some injury news for you to keep track of. And unfortunately, a lot of it has to do with the San Francisco 49ers, because they have been hit by the nasty, nasty injury bug early and often so far. So the first one, we already knew, George Kittle. He is going to be out for at least a month. He got put on injured reserve this week with a hamstring issue from that week 1 game against the Seahawks. So George Kittle going to be out. We'll get to who his replacement is in just a moment. You also have Brock Purdy, the quarterback. He's expected to miss this week, dealing with a toe injury. And wouldn't you know it, anybody know who the backup quarterback for the 49ers is now?
Nick Mullins.
No, that's a good guess, though. Mac Jones. So if you remember, when he was coming out of Alabama, there was a lot of buzz that maybe the 49ers would take Mac Jones with their first pick. They took Trey Lance instead. Mac Jones ultimately now in line to be the starting QB for the 49ers this weekend. And you also have wide receiver Jawan Jennings, who is questionable. So a lot up in the air there for the 49ers. But the good news was Christian McCaffrey was healthy and looked really, really good in week 1. A couple other injury notes. You have Drake London, Falcons receiver, expected to be a go this weekend. So that's looking good there. You have Jalen Waddle, Dolphins receiver. Not that you probably want to play anybody from the Dolphins offense after week 1, but he is banged up with a shoulder thing, but he looks like he should be able to go this weekend as well. Also, some interesting news. The Jaguars saying Travis Hunter going to get more reps at defensive back this week. So maybe want to be a little cautious with your expectations.
7 plays, I think, last week is what it was.
Yeah, it wasn't a whole lot. So we'll see if that affects his availability at wide receiver or not, but he was starting wide receiver opposite of Brian Thomas Jr. last week. So we will keep an eye on that. But now let's get to some waiver wire additions, some players that you should be having your eye on if they're still floating around in your league. Definitely worth considering putting them in your lineup, or at least adding them to your bench. So we'll start at quarterback. I already mentioned this one, Daniel Jones. He had 29.5 fantasy points last week. I know it's Daniel Jones. He looked really comfortable in that Colts offense last week. Maybe it was just the fact they were playing the Dolphins, who look terrible, but certainly worth the stash if you need a backup quarterback or you're in a multi-quarterback league. Michael Penix Jr. also had a really good showing in his first game this season for the Falcons. He had 42 pass attempts, also had that rushing touchdown late, so certainly someone there. Sheer volume of passing attempts for him every game might make him a good option. And then this is a little bit of a bold one, But if we're feeling bold early in the season, there's a lot of buzz that Jackson Dart may be getting an opportunity to be the starting quarterback for the Giants early because Russell Wilson and that offense looked really, really bad. So maybe worth a stash. We know what he can do with his legs, so maybe a valuable player down the line for you this season. Let's look at wide receiver quickly. You got Quentin Johnson of the Chargers. He had 2 touchdowns last week against the Chiefs, former first-round pick. So a lot to like there potentially with that offense. Patriots receiver Kayshon Boutte, I brought this up last week as somebody worth having potentially. He had the most targets of all Patriots wide receivers last week, even over Stephon Diggs, and he had 19 fantasy points last week. 16 fantasy points last week. You also got Browns receiver Cedric Tillman had a big weekend, and Raiders wide receiver rookie Dante Thornton going to have a bigger role now that we know Amari Cooper is out there in Las Vegas. Running backs, another player I told you about last week, Dylan Sampson, the rookie out of Tennessee, had a big week, 17.3 fantasy points, a big factor in the passing game last week for the Browns. So certainly if you're in PPR leagues, Dylan Sampson worth playing. He will be in my lineup this week at my flex position. You also have Steelers running back Kenneth Gainwell. He had double-digit touches in week 1 behind Jaylen Warren, so a good look there if you need some help at running back. And then how about Bashul Tootin? I know you don't know who that is, but he is now the backup running back there in Jacksonville after they traded Tank Bigsby, the former Auburn star, to the Eagles earlier this week, so certainly worth a stash there as well. A couple tight ends to look out for. Jonnu Smith caught a touchdown from Aaron Rodgers last week for the Steelers. He could be worth a look. Jake Tonges, I assume that's how you pronounce his name, but he's going to fill in for George Kittle for the 49ers. Scored a touchdown last week after Kittle went out, so could do worse than that. And then another guy I told you about last week, that is Jaguars tight end Brenton Strange. He had 4 catches for 59 yards in week 1, so you could certainly do a lot worse than that if you need help at tight end. And then finally, a couple of defenses that should be available, at least one of these in your league. If not, that's unfortunate. You got a lot of good players in your league probably. But 3 that I like this week, you got the Cowboys defense going up against the Giants, which I just mentioned. Terrible offensively in week 1. Cardinals going up against the Panthers. Again, Bryce Young, really, really rough start to the year. And the Patriots as they will take on the Dolphins offense, which also looked really, really rough. So those are some of my takeaways heading into week 2 of fantasy football. Hopefully the week goes better for myself, Molly, and the rest of you that weren't winners in week 1. And we will be back next week with another Fantasy Corner.
How many people are in your league?
12.
12. How about you, Molly? How many?
I think 10.
10?
Okay.
Good size league.
12 is a real man's league. If you're in an 8-person league, it's too easy.
How about 10? You going to make fun of Molly's league?
No, 10's
Yeah,
fine.
make fun of me again, Conrad.
10's fine. When did I make fun of you last?
Like 2 days ago.
I've been nice for... It's been
I
rough,
feel like you've been
rough couple weeks.
pretty nice.
I've been nice.
I did just see
He's
where
just salty.
we got the game tonight. Commanders at the Packers. Jaden Daniels going to be wearing the Japanese flag decal along with the American flag decal. That it was revealed that his maternal great-grandmother is actually of Japanese descent. So the NFL featuring some of those jerseys. Somebody asked him about Derrick Henry and how many yards does he have and where is he on the career rushing yards list. He is currently 18th.
Yeah, if he finishes this year, because I was looking at it before last Sunday's game. So if he has like an average season for him, which is pretty remarkable, it'd be about 1,500 rushing yards, he will finish in the top 10 of all-time rushing yards at the end of this season if he can stay healthy.
He should pass Fred Taylor in the next game. Currently, Derrick Henry, 18th all-time, 11,592 yards. Fred Taylor's at 11,695. And then you get to several guys that finish their career with 12,000-plus yards, including Jim Brown, Tony Dorsett, Marshall Faulk, Edgerrin James, Marcus Allen, Franco Harris, and Thurman Thomas.
Well, and how about this? You brought up Jim Brown. Derrick Henry this past weekend passed Jim Brown. He is now 6th all-time in rushing touchdowns in NFL history with 108. So granted, he has 57 to go to pass Emmett, so that would be tough. But certainly he is no doubt going to be a Hall of Famer and a first ballot Hall of Famer when he calls it quits.
He had a great game up until the fumble on Sunday. And unfortunately, that's what led to the Bills coming back and winning. That was a spark.
And unfortunately now, if you're the Ravens, the last 2 times you played the Bills, Derrick Henry fumbles, and in the playoffs you had Mark Andrews with that fumble that ultimately lost you those 2 games. So that's a little bit rough. But Derrick Henry last week, if you were also wondering, whoever texted in, he had 18 carries for 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good.
Did I read a quote this morning? Somebody said that Derrick Henry's easy to bring down tackling. Did you read that, Molly?
I did. I can't remember who said it,
Yeah.
but I did see that.
I saw that too. I was like, oh.
Like somebody that they're playing this week said that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably ill-advised.
Mm-hmm. Sure did.
He's going to take a knee to the face at some point this weekend, I guess.
Didn't Derrick Henry set some kind of crazy high school rushing record?
Oh, well, this was the stat that got some traction last week. So Derrick Henry is still, I think it's like 500 rushing yards now. He has been in the NFL for 9 years. He still has not eclipsed his rushing total from high school. He ran for over 10,000 yards in high school.
Go and if you can pull up some of the huddle or whatever it was back then.
That wasn't even fair.
It-
that was
look
like-
at it looks like adults playing against an adult playing against a bunch of little kids. It's not. And there were times in his college career where it looked like an adult playing against little kids.
His senior year of high school, this is his stat line. His senior year, 4,261 rushing yards.
That's his senior year?
One season. 4,261 rushing yards, 9 yards a carry, 55 rushing touchdowns. That was his senior year of high school.
Wow.
Yeah, he's one of, when we say generational, he is a generational
That prepared
talent.
him for the season where he carried it 400 times for Nick Saban.
And I thank him for carrying that load. because
How many
it
how
led
many
to a national
how many games
championship.
was that senior season? Does it say?
Like 3 probably. I'm sure he got
Just
hurt
a-
and missed a
a
couple games.
10-game regular season in the high school level, that would be over 400 yards per game rushing.
Well, I'm thinking, all right, 10 games. Let's say they played, what, 5 postseason games? Something like that, 5 or 6, maybe? I mean, he averaged.
That would be a championship.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he averaged over 300 yards a game, basically.
Did they win the state championship?
I'm sure they did. I'd find it hard to believe they did not.
I would hope so.
Yeah, that's remarkable. Remarkable.
Yeah, that quarterback probably didn't get a whole lot of work.
No,
He just handing it off.
yeah, special talent.
For sure. We do still have ponders. Pat's going to ask questions. We're going to try to answer them and other things. More of your texts rolling in on this Thursday as we get ready for not only a college game in the ACC, but also the NFL. Three-man front continues right here on Jocks.
It is 1:16. Welcome back into Three-Man Front. Pat Landrum, Molly Conrad. If you missed any of our interviews from earlier, David Waters from the Florida Gators Breakdown podcast, he joined the show. Rodney Orr, Tyler Insider, Rob Payton, Brett Norsworthy last hour. This month only at Courtesy GMC, it's the kickoff sales event, and they're bringing the lowest prices in the Southeast. Get up to $15,000 off the all-new 2025 Sierra 1500, or go bigger with the Sierra 2500 HT, up to $12,000 off. And it's not just trucks. Drive off in a brand new Acadia, up to $5,000 in savings. All 2025 stock Yukons and Yukon XLs are now $5,000 off. That means Courtesy has the all-new 2025 Yukon and Super Cruise, that's hands-free driving, starting at $69,995. They're at Courtesy GMC in Trustful. Plus, every new GMC comes with their exclusive 7-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Get by and see them. 9 acres of inventory right off of I-459, exit 32 in Trustful. Check out their online inventory at courtesybirmingham.com. Today is the 24th anniversary of 9/11. Tonight, the President of the United States will be in the Bronx. He will be in New York as the New York Yankees will be taking on the Detroit Tigers. Last night, the New York Yankees was one of many that had a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated yesterday on the campus of Utah Valley University. So, still, to my understanding, that there has not been someone apprehended in that case, as the FBI is now offering $100,000 for information that will lead to his arrest.
A still shot of a video of an individual that they're very interested in
discussing
the matter with.
Yep.
But, hopefully there's justice. You pray for justice in this situation, and hopefully there's some kind of resolution when it comes to whoever's responsible.
1-800-239-WJOX, the Courtesy GMC text line is open at 205-834-9450. We told you a little bit earlier, news started percolating earlier this week that the backup quarterback for Wisconsin, he would be taking the snaps against Alabama, and that became a true statement earlier this morning as multiple media outlets reported that Danny O'Neal, the transfer from San Diego State, he is going to be the starting quarterback for the Badgers, as Billy Edwards Jr., he went down with a knee injury in the Miami of Ohio game, the first game of the season. And Danny O'Neal stepped in last week, and he had a good day, 23 of 27, 283 passing, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. This Wisconsin defense, they're salty. They shut out Miami of Ohio in the opener. They rank 3rd nationally. They're only allowing 179 yards per game. Now, keep in mind, they played Miami of Ohio, and last week it was Middle Tennessee State. But still, they only gave up 179 yards.
And I think one thing that will make you happy if you're an Alabama fan is, while I know that we were talking with Rodney, and he's a guy that can kind of move around the pocket a little bit when he's throwing, but for his career, and he was a starter last year at San Diego State, he's averaging about 1.5 yards a carry. So not somebody that you should have to worry about running all over you, but I mean, then again, I guess you didn't really think that about Jackson Arnold last year before we saw what he could do for Oklahoma.
And the good news maybe for Alabama fans and Alabama's defense is you go back to Danny O'Neal and his game log from last year at San Diego State, just looking at some of the bigger name teams that they played. 11 of 24 for 107 yards, 0 touchdowns in a 21-0 loss to Oregon State. At Boise, 14 of 30 for 155 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And the last one would be against UNLV last season. 13 of 22 for 162 yards. Again, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
My challenge for Alabama would just be, can you get off to a hot start like you did last week? Because this does not strike me as a Wisconsin team that, let's say it's 14-0 in the second quarter. I think you got to feel really good in that spot if you're Alabama. This is not a Wisconsin team that's built to come back from a deficit.
Was the crowd as bad as Rodney said it was at the beginning last week?
I mean, it was. Well, I will say this: it was. So they announced it was a sellout, and it did fill out, but it took a while for people to get into the stadium. I think as part of it is, and I mean,
he said it was dead. So like there was absolutely no vibe whatsoever.
I mean, I guess from my perspective in the press box, I'll be honest too, it was my first time in the press box, so I was kind of focused on getting my bearings and everything more so than this.
You're just worried about getting your free food.
It was the food.
Well, I did want my free
was
food,
the
and it
food.
was quite delicious.
Programs. Can I have one?
I thought that the crowd during the game was lively, but I'll be honest, I wasn't paying a ton of attention when I was walking in. I was trying to get my bearings.
Do you realize Alabama has a 13-game home winning streak
That's nice.
against all opponents?
That's nice.
Last loss win?
That would have been
Texas.
Texas 2 years ago.
Conrad was there cussing in front of his mom.
Thank you.
Man, potty mouth.
Sure was. Did
That
you
was a
realize it's been
fun
13
game.
games? 13-game winning streak?
No, that's actually like one of the better stats that you could have brought up about Alabama over the last 2 years. So, yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. I would not have guessed that.
Well,
So you're saying don't be worried this week, but be worried in 2 weeks then.
The Jimmies and Joes that you saw with that Texas squad, they're not on that Wisconsin.
well, 2
squad.
weeks is not a home game.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. So be worried about that one because don't have that winning streak.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Auburn will be hosting South Alabama. That's an 11:45 kickoff, and it will be a whiteout. The fans are told to wear white, and all indications are, Landrum, that Auburn's going to do something the first time that they've done at home since 2007.
I got the all-white uniforms with the white face mask. So Auburn going with the Stormtroopers at home. A little bit of a change-up. Well, a really big change-up of what we've seen from Auburn in past years. But you got an afternoon game, in-state opponent. Why not wear the white?
Good idea. It's a great look. Tigers lead the SEC in both rushing defense and rushing offense. They rank 2nd and 11th in the FBS in those categories, respectively, through the first 2 games. Rushing defense are only giving up 31 yards a game in the first 2 games. Very salty. Auburn also leads the SEC in both tackles for loss with 19, and they're tied for number 1 in America with 10 sacks. So DJ Durkin is earning his paycheck.
For sure. They're going to play another talented quarterback in Bishop Davenport, who started his career at Utah State. Running back, talked about a little bit earlier in Kentrell Bullock, that started his career at Ole Miss. This South Alabama team that they closed it and made it close against Tulane, a very good, we believe, Tulane team coached by John Summerall, and made that really, really close last week. So this will be a different kind of challenge, not as good as Baylor, but in my opinion, much better than the Ball State team they saw a week ago.
Well, and I thought it was very interesting during the conversation with Rob Pate of kind of, and I think you asked the question, Landrum, but essentially him going through how a lot of these guys, there's a talent difference, but these guys can still play football, right? It just might be guys that were backups somewhere else, or they played at a smaller school, and so going into these games, kind of the mentality that you have to have. I mean, South Alabama, they got a good program. Like, they've had some success here recently, so you can't take them lightly, but I mean, again, all things considered, Auburn should be able to take care of business.
Here's a prime example. Go to Reynolds Razorback Stadium last year. That was not a great Arkansas team, but that's an SEC team, and it's Arkansas.
Yeah. And
going and traveling with UAB gave them everything they wanted, traded licks, punch for punch for much of that game. That game was still in the balance. You better come out. You better be focused, especially these days, because there are dudes that are going to be playing. This is not, this was their only offer, and they're playing at South Alabama. What a great story. A lot of these kids, they started in the SEC.
Well, and I say this maybe a little tongue-in-cheek, right? But, I mean,
Or
seriously.
other power 4 places.
You never know when you're going to run up against an opponent like a New Mexico a couple years ago where you're like, who's this Diego Pavia kid? Oh, this is somebody that can play at the very highest level. He just didn't get the recognition to get that opportunity right away. So you never know when you're going to come up against a team or an opponent like that, or like we've talked about, playing these teams that run the triple option where it's a different look than you're normally expecting. And you might be more talented on paper, but that doesn't always, save you on Saturdays.
So one SEC contest, well, it's not a conference game, but one SEC team and their opponent, they have just announced that they have moved their game. Saturday's game between number 25 Mizzou and Louisiana will now be kicked off at 12 noon as opposed to 3 o'clock. The reason given is the potential weather situation in Columbia. It is supposed to be 96 degrees at kickoff in Columbia, and they have decided to move the game up to 12 noon to try to beat some of that late afternoon heat. So for those that want to follow that game or watch it, or if you have some potential Vegas entertainment dollars on that game, it is now scheduled for 12 noon as opposed to 3 o'clock based on the weather forecast of 96 degrees.
Does that mean all that heat will eventually make its way here to the great state of Alabama?
Next week's supposed to be in the 90s again.
Okay.
I was anticipating them saying that there's some thunderstorms or something coming through, but instead it's an excessive heat warning for Middle America.
When do we typically get our first frost? End of October, early November?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. I just need a little bit of a break from our friends at Alabama Power. I just don't want to have to keep that thing running for the next month and a half. They don't have any control over it, but I guess I'm thankful that I have an air conditioner. Thankful we have Pat. He crafts questions. We try to answer. We'll do that. Pat Ponders next on Three Man Front.
It is 1:31. Welcome back into the program. We encourage everyone to download the Three Man Front podcast. Each and every day we have our interviews and some best of segments that you can download for your perusing at your leisure. Or you can take us along with you. Watch us on YouTube on the Jocks 94.5 app.
Well, we've got a fun weekend of college football ahead, and the perfect place to go catch all the live action is at Big Whiskey's. They are a great place for food of all varieties. They have a full menu with apps, salads, burgers, and steaks. Their bar features unique cocktails, over 120 whiskeys, including whiskey on tap and plenty of screens that you can catch all the football action all weekend long. They also offer different food and drink specials for each day of the week. They have happy hour, and the kitchen is open late every night. So go check them out in the Stadium Trace Village off Highway 150 near the Hoover Met.
All right, I come up with questions every day. They give me answers. It's brought to you by Courtesy GMC and Trustful. This is Pat Ponders.
I want to know what you're thinking. Tell me what's on your mind.
It's time for Pat Ponders.
Question number 1. Statistically speaking, Diego Pavia is currently the number 1 rated quarterback in college football, according to Pro Football Focus. So when the regular season ends, who will be considered the best quarterback statistically in the Southeastern Conference?
I think it's going to be John Mateer. Based on what I've seen so far. Guy's really good throwing the ball. Doesn't have to run it. Can certainly run it when he needs to. But I think it's going to be John Mateer.
I would probably lean Mateer as well. And a lot of it has to do with what he can add with his legs running the football. I just have concerns with, again, not the talent level of these guys, but we've talked about it, right? Like last week, you would have expected Garrett Nussmeier to go out there and throw for 350 and 4 touchdowns, right? And he did not do that. So I just don't know if statistically some of those guys will be there at the end. So yeah, I'll go John Mateer. I think he's been the best quarterback so far as well.
I would go Mateer as well. I was going to say that.
All right, question number 2.
Sorry, I was supposed to say Arch Manning, wasn't I?
Austin Simmons, but that's okay.
Austin Simmons, okay, okay.
All right, question number 2. Alabama
Simpson.
currently boasts the best all-time home winning percentage in the FBS with an 844 winning percentage. They're 305, 55, and 3 at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Boise State's Albertson Stadium, which opened in 1970, is the next closest with an 824 winning percentage. Now, based on the top 5, there's only one other current SEC stadium that is ranked in the top 5. What is your perception of which SEC school stadium it is?
It's top 5. It would be Tiger Stadium.
See, I'm thinking Death Valley, but that seems like maybe that's too easy.
See, this was like a very Pat question.
Wait,
Because I
okay.
feel like it would be Death Valley, too.
Sorry, read the question one more time, please.
Alabama currently boasts the best all-time home winning percentage in the FBS with an 844 winning percentage. They've won 305 games and only lost 55 at Bryant-Denny. Boise State's Albertson Stadium, which is 296 wins and 63 losses, which opened in 1970, is the next closest to Alabama at 824. So there's one other current SEC stadium ranked in the top 5 as the home field advantage. What is your perception of which SEC school it is?
I'm going to go back on what I said. It's not Tiger Stadium. It's where you went last year. It's Norman, Oklahoma.
Oh, that's a great guess.
Ooh, that is a good guess.
That's a really good guess.
They
Okay.
stockpiled a bunch of
Yeah.
wins in the Big 12 year after year.
Yeah, that's a great choice. I'll stick with Death Valley, but that's a great, yeah.
I'm going to go Memorial Stadium, Oklahoma.
Coming in at number 5, it's Marshall's Joan C. Edwards Stadium. Coming in at number 4 is Georgia Southern, Paulson Stadium. That's an 814 winning percentage. And coming in at number 3 from the Southeastern Conference, the stadium was built in 1925. Their team has a record of 424 wins, 88 losses, and 15 ties. That's for an 818 winning percentage. It is the Oklahoma Gaylord Family Memorial Stadium.
It's a great guess, Landrum.
I started thinking about, it's a very Pat question because I was not thinking Texas and Oklahoma initially.
The key was current SEC stadium.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, and I thought you had given a time frame and it was going to be Sanford because obviously their home record has been phenomenal over the last 10 years or so.
Question number 3.
Good job, Landrum.
Thank you.
Good guess.
So after a horde of Bills fans left early on Sunday prior to the big comeback against Baltimore, who do you view as the most loyal fan base in the NFL?
I feel like it's got to be Packers fans. because of the history of the franchise, but also just what you have to do in terms of climate to go attend a game and sit through it every fall. Yeah, I would have to go with the Green Bay Packers. They just strike me as, even if they were the worst team in the NFL, you're still going to pack out Lambeau because it's an experience and it's just part of living in Green Bay.
I haven't seen every fan base or interacted with them, but Packers fans are awesome. Going to a game there is awesome. They support their team. If they're good, if they're bad, it's the Packers.
I'd probably go Packers or Steelers.
Yeah, Steelers is good. Do we think least loyal would be Cowboys? They just have a lot of bandwagon fans.
I don't know. I mean, I've been to a Bears game too, and the Bears have been really bad. A lot of people there wearing their colors.
I feel like overall there's very good fan loyalty in the NFL.
I would agree with that.
Generally speaking. Like even, okay, so for your experience, Molly, like with the Lions, I mean, people still went to the games.
Yeah. I mean, there's more now.
Obviously, but I
Right.
mean, even when y'all were bad, like people still loved the Lions.
I mean, yeah, we
and
went to the
y'all were
games.
terrible.
Yeah.
It always strikes me if I'm traveling in the airport during football season to be there on a Friday or a Saturday and at one of the, like a Dallas or Atlanta, and see how many different fan bases are represented by people wearing their gear rolling through the airport. The NFL teams.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next question. If you're Scott Strickland and Florida gets beat by 4 touchdowns in Baton Rouge, what is your detailed plan of attack for Billy Napier and his future?
I don't say anything to Billy. I then start exercising the sticky note, secret file on my phone, whatever it is, and start mapping out who am I going to target, when am I going to start targeting them, and who's going to help pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to pull a page out of the Greg Byrne book of what we heard from him when Nick Saban retired, I would imagine you already have the sheet if you're Scott Strickland with the names on it.
So who's on your sheet? That's what I'm asking. I'm asking for like a detailed, like
names?
what are you doing? Who are you reaching out to?
Well, I mean,
who's on your file?
Yeah, so I think first off, right, you go for the make them tell me no names, right? Your Dan Lannings of the world, maybe. I don't think I'd put Lane Kiffin in that cat, but someone of that stature, maybe a Marcus Freeman, someone that you identify as, they're probably not going to take the job, but I got to do my due diligence, right? So I think you go through those names first. I think once you get through that phase of it, maybe that's when you start to kick the tires on all right, what would it look like for Lane Kiffin to come over here? What would it look like for, I'm just trying to think, a Glenn Schumann to come over here, right? Some of these other SEC names. And then I think after that is when you start, looking in the mirror and going, would we actually strongly consider a John Gruden? Would we strongly consider an Alex Golish? Would we strongly consider a John Summerall? That would be how I played it out.
Yeah, first you call the people, like Conrad said, the Dan Lannings, the Lanes. But then you would I would agree with the fact that, like, then you might go down to, like, that next tier, maybe, like, a Kenny Dillingham or, like, a Jed Fish, John Summerall. I've seen Lance Leipold, his name thrown around, so.
Okay. All right, final question. This comes from BB. She's going to give you some options here. If you had the opportunity to have a private dinner with one of these famous football females, who would be your number one and why? Jordan Hudson, Terry Saban, Christy Malzahn, Nicole DeBoer, or Cindy Gruden?
I mean, I'm picking Miss Terry.
Why?
She just seems like a great gal, someone that you'd want to hang out with.
I'm going Malzahn.
Why?
I think that you could probably get some unfiltered comments and some interesting tidbits and nuggets, not only about the business, being a coach's wife, but different stops, different people that they've interacted with, and she's probably
The
not gonna
skeletons
be,
in the Auburn closet.
she's not going to be as guarded. I didn't say Auburn, just said in general.
Well, I mean, she would know where the skeletons are. That's for sure at Auburn.
Yeah, I think in terms of pure entertainment, right? We're having dinner and I want to be entertained with some funny stories. I would probably go John Gruden's wife. I would think you would have some really good material there from the entirety of his career. See, and my thing, like with Miss Terry, right? Miss Terry's very sweet. I'm sure she would be wonderful. But how much is she really gonna like peel back the curtain? Probably not a whole lot. I would imagine Kalen DeBoer's wife would probably be quite reserved when it came to the things that I would want to discuss. So yeah, I'll go with John Gruden's wife. I think she'd have good stories.
So you think that Jordan Hudson would be a very like yes no kind of answers, not very deep?
I have zero interest in sharing a meal with Jordan Hudson.
She'd be on her phone the whole time.
See, she would actually be my second pick.
She would say
because
like.
we're about the same age. So you're like,
So what would the conversation be like?
well, I don't know because it's never going to happen.
Well, I know, but just give me an example of a question or so that you would.
How are things going with Bill? Like relationship talk? Because I would want to know.
How's business in P-Town?
Right.
You picking up extra shifts or how's that working? Does your mom run that store all by herself?
Conrad's asking for coupons. It's all sorts of stuff.
Do you have a discount?
Do you have the store inventory log on you by chance? I just want to see if you have
Any kind of famous
something in
people
stock.
have come in the store and made purchases that we'd like to know about? All right, that's today's Pat Ponders, brought to you by Courtesy GMC in Trussville. Get by and see them in person off of I-459 exit 32, or visit their online inventory at courtesybirmingham.com.
The Thursday edition of Three Man Front rolls on right here on your home for college football. More Jocks. 147 three-man front. Always want to tell you about our friends at Prize Picks. We've got professional football and college football tonight, but Prize Picks, in case you're not familiar, is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Got choked up. Join millions of users and sign up today. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds. Turn your takes into cash all season long on Prize Picks. Here's how it works. It's really simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Download the app today. That's the Prize Picks app. Use code WJOX. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code WJOX to get $50 in lineups after you play that first $5 lineup. Tonight we're going professional football. Green Bay hosting the Commanders of Washington. One of the player projections is rushing yards. Josh Jacobs, former Alabama running back, projection is 76.5 rushing yards. More or less, Conrad, for Josh Jacobs, 76.5.
Ooh. Commanders' defensive line maybe not quite as good as last year. I'll go more.
All right, we're going to go more there. How about Washington quarterback Jaden Daniels, 46.5 rushing yards, more or less? I'm going to go less.
I'll go less on that one, yeah.
All right, so we agree. If we hit on both of those projections, we're a winner. Once again, download the app today. Make sure you use promo code WJOX to get the $50 in lineups after that first $5 play. Prize Picks, it is good to be right.
Coming up on the show tomorrow, Wimp Sanderson will be by. He'll give us his blue plate. Unfortunately, he lost last week. We told him not to do it, but he did it anyway. Maybe he'll listen to us this week.
Yeah.
We'll see. He lost last week, but he will be on the program. So will Mike Rodak from Bama 247 and a myriad of other guests on the program as we get you ready for the weekend. We already told you one SEC game they have moved the kickoff time from 3 o'clock to 12 noon. The Missouri Tigers hosting Louisiana, and that game has been moved up because the high temperatures. That's the worst part of this time of the year. Just the fact that you got a lot of really bad thunderstorms, and then, of course, the heat in middle of America. That's what's going on this weekend. So they've moved their game from 3 until noon. Bama gets everything started bright and early at 11 o'clock against Wisconsin. Alabama's still a 20.5-point favorite. Meanwhile, Auburn, they will kick off 45 minutes after Alabama at 11:45, and currently Auburn is a 24.5-point favorite. So Vegas likes both Alabama and Auburn big coming up this weekend.
I know we were having fun with Brett Norsworthy when he joined us. Do you think that this is one of those topsy-turvy weekends in the SEC, or you think maybe we don't get it this weekend as much as maybe a future weekend?
I think we might get one.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to have the chaos that now listen, I'm all for it. I would love for it to happen, but I do not think that what Brett laid out about an hour ago is going to happen.
It's tough for me to think that Florida team goes into LSU and beats them at night. Maybe gives them a game, but I don't subscribe to that. Ole Miss and Arkansas, feel like Arkansas they're going to be poised, ready to play. But Ole Miss, this is kind of their all right. We didn't play that great last week. We got to get some things corrected, and playing at home and coming back at home and knowing what that game means to them. I think they get it done. But I really do like Tennessee. I've been swayed, and there's a good chance that I'm fooled. And I really like Vanderbilt on the road at South Carolina. But again, if South Carolina, they win at Williams-Brice, is anybody going to really be surprised? And if Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt goes in there and upsets, is anybody really going to be surprised?
South Carolina hasn't won 3 straight games to start a season since 2012.
Wow.
It's been a minute. They don't know success. I mean, you got Lenora Sellers. He's off to a slow start. He's completing only 61%. Remember the stat I gave you? Green at Arkansas is hitting at like 72% of his passes. Lenora Sellers at 61%, and I think he's only got 3 total touchdowns, and that includes on the ground for South Carolina. And they struggled against South Carolina State last week. Their offense was brutal. But they've owned Vanderbilt. They've won 16 in a row, and they're playing them at home. So we'll see if Diego has his magic there as Sandstorm's being played.
That's a great environment, man. What they've been able to create there, especially recently, and it helps if you got good football teams. Texas A&M taking on Notre Dame. That was another one that Brett thought that A&M would go up there and win.
Yeah, it's a game that hadn't, of course, in our neck of the woods, it has not really been much of a conversation about going up to South Bend. But if Texas A&M wins that, which they're an underdog, but if they were to win that game, then all of a sudden I think a lot of people change their opinion of what potentially Texas A&M can be. One other note on that Vanderbilt-South Carolina game, for those that may not have been paying close attention to Vanderbilt, and I know they played a cupcake game. I think it was at Charleston Southern in week 1, and then they played Vanderbilt last week. Vanderbilt has the number 1 defense in the Southeastern Conference. They're only giving up 191 yards a game.
Oof.
And they went on the road and played a Power 4 opponent in Blacksburg. So, just saying.
Beat them by double digits.
I mean, if South Carolina weren't focused against South Carolina State and you couldn't move the ball, Vandy's got a pretty salty defense and a quarterback that's taking on the world every Saturday when he takes a snap. So I think that's why everybody loves Vanderbilt in this position.
Well, for Lenora Sellers or any other quarterback to have success, you can't be one-dimensional, and you can't to be where they're not respecting you throwing the football. Whether it's guys dropping passes, guys not getting open, or you missing your mark, you've got to have that. That's the element that Shane Beamer needs that South Carolina offense to have.
Well, we talked about it, a lot this offseason with how much they lost on the defensive side of it, but I think some of us may have overlooked how good Rocket Sanders was for them. Because, we remember he was really good at Arkansas, and then he transferred to South Carolina. He was really, really good for them last year, and I think he hit the nail on the head, right? You just have some of those other pieces. Nothing against Nora Sellers necessarily. It's just it's more difficult to do that when the defense has less people to focus on.
So, and we'll also have our Bet It or Forget It segment. All 3 individuals on the show, they're tied 10-5 on the season.
For now.
That's right.
For now.
I've already changed my picks like 5 times. Because I'm indecisive.
Mm-hmm. Keep that up.
Yeah.
Keep that up. You feel good about your picks, Molly? Have you made them already?
I'm just taking the under in all of them.
Well, there it is.
I'm just kidding.
There it is.
Could have guessed that one.
Hey, go over.
Should I? I'll think about it.
Explosion of points.
Wow. For everybody.
Pow, pow.
I feel like I need to take all upsets now after Brett. I feel inspired.
You do that.
He was a man of conviction with those two. It wasn't like, I'm not sure.
It's easy to be convicted when you have no money on it.
Well,
yeah. Here's your sample game tonight: NC State and Wake. 7.5 NC State. You taking the Wolfpack?
I'm not touching that game, but yeah, I would take the Wolfpack.
The game just makes me want to throw up thinking about it.
You don't want to watch Robbie Ashford?
Oh. There's only 4 teams I really will watch in the ACC.
And you mean Wake Forest isn't one of them?
No. Neither is Stanford or Cal.